Hey everyone, my name is Alex. I'm going to be playing some Blaze Blue Central Fiction for you today. I am pretty new to fighting games. I'm new to Blaze Blue especially. Only really been playing it for a few hours, just some solo matches with a friend to, go through all the characters, figure out which ones are cool, which ones I might want to play a little bit. I settled on Mew. I'm going to be playing some of the challenge missions and learning some of the combos, hopefully trying to drill them into memory. But I am pretty bad still. Don't make too much fun of me. I'm still pretty bad at them. But, I'm going to try and get through some of the missions. I wanted to make this video to hopefully introduce some more people to fighting games, because I think that fighting games deserve a little bit more attention than they have gotten in the past recently. And I want to kind of, maybe help assuage some fears that some people might have about getting into fighting games, or maybe address some of the reasons why some people don't, because there are definitely some reasons why not too many new people are getting into fighting games, and so hopefully I can talk a little bit about some of those. And first thing I want to say, if you are a new player, you should be playing fighting games. They are definitely fun, and there's definitely people out there who you can play with and have fun with. And if you're interested in playing but you're not playing, give it a shot. Try and figure out what your fears are, and kind of try and look at them logically, and figure out that you can just get into the game and have fun playing a game, and that's fine. And I know some of the anxieties around playing fighting games are like, it's super competitive, or like it's hard to play against another person. Feel like you might be either wasting your time, or you just don't have fun losing over and over again, or stuff like that. You can look at those and you can address them in a different way. I think that's the first thing that should be done. And first thing to realize is that the anxiety about playing against other people fades with time, definitely. Especially if you're playing against friends. But if you're playing online, it can be a bit different. But that definitely goes away with time. Once you've played enough, you kind of start to realize that you're not as anxious about it anymore. So if you just get started and start playing, that can definitely help with that kind of anxiety. And don't worry about like not being good enough. You kind of have to just acknowledge that you're going to be bad at first. You're going to be losing a lot of games. But as soon as you realize that and get okay with it, it makes it a whole lot easier to lose, because you're going to have to lose a lot early on. So as soon as you get past that, it's a lot better. One of the biggest reasons to play fighting games, in my eyes, is that they are cool. They feel good to play. They look cool. You can see what's going on screen. I'm playing like a robot with flying swords that can do these super long combos and stuff, and fire lasers, and making cool sounds and everything, and that's awesome. Fighting games feel really good, and a lot of people might be looking at this and say like, oh, it's so hard to learn. Look at all those buttons in the top left. There's no way I can memorize how to press 4 buttons in a row. You don't have to worry about that. Like fighting games are not as hard to learn as it might seem. The only kind of daunting thing is learning a new control scheme. Because I think one of the things that people kind of don't really realize is that a lot of games kind of fell into a similar control scheme. It's like, everyone knows how a shooter is supposed to be played these days. You have WASD, you move around, you look around with the mouse, and you left click to shoot. And that's about all you need to know. And, most people know how to play MOBAs nowadays. You have your QWER. You can press those, right click to move, stuff like that. Just jump right in, have a whale of time. It's pretty well known, those control schemes. So one of the big things is like fighting games themselves. The games themselves are not hard to learn. What you're struggling to learn is the control scheme. But once you can kind of work that control scheme into muscle memory and figure out what buttons do what, it makes it a lot easier to kind of focus on the actual learning of your character and the mechanics and matchups and everything. So a lot of the difficulty is kind of more about the control scheme than the game itself. So it's a lot of just working it into your muscle memory. And another thing about getting good with fighting games is that there is no equipment barrier. You might think, I need to have an arcade stick to be really good at execution and stuff like that. It's hard to, you don't have to care about that. there are people out there who are playing with pad and doing just fine in tournaments, mind you. And there are, plenty of people that I see making comments out there who are, playing on keyboard. And in fact, there's a control scheme for an arcade stick that's a stickless one, and Hitbox, you might have heard of it. That's kind of built to mimic layouts of like keyboard. It's laid out way differently, and doesn't even have a stick. And you can just lay out a keyboard in exactly the same way and basically have the same controller. And the only difference past that point would be, having the big ol' arcade buttons rather than, keyboard keys. So there's really not that much of an equipment barrier, if at all. You don't even need a mouse to play. Just have a keyboard, you're good. You could go pick up a $5 Logitech at Best Buy and be fine. So you can just do that. So you don't need to worry about, getting a $200 stick or anything right off the bat. Just, get in there with whatever you have and start playing. So past the equipment stuff, though, I will say, one of the biggest complaints that, I had coming into it was, my reaction times aren't going to be very good. These games go so quick, I don't know how I'm possibly going to be able to, react to an overhead that has, people counting stuff in terms of frames. Out of 60 in a second, you have to react to something within 7 frames. It's like that's a tenth of a second, basically. But it's not really about that. People aren't really reacting to stuff that quickly. There might be some crazy people out there who are like, super hyper that can react to that kind of stuff. But, a lot of that isn't even reaction. It's a lot about problem solving and prediction and conditioning and stuff like that. It's less about that reaction time. So, it doesn't matter really, how your reaction times are. My reaction times are garbage. I've played some shooters in my time, but, I was never really good at the reaction flick shots or anything like that. Those were just super hard for me. But, I could figure out how to aim and, figure out my execution. And, games like CSGO, and, you learn your map, learn your opponents, learn how to play against them strategy-wise. Sure, you can pop off and be like a, killing machine, but, you need to have a little bit of map knowledge and strategy to actually win. If you can just place your crosshair in a shooter, in just the right spot and figure out the best way to click someone, that will work a lot better in some cases than just learning how to react and flick and stuff like that. So the same thing works in fighting games. It's a lot about, doing the same thing over and over again so you can condition your opponent into, reacting a certain way when you finally get in on them, and then mixing it up on them and figuring out another way in on them and confusing them. It's a lot more about those mind games than it is about anything else. So I think that's pretty comforting, is you don't have to worry as much about the reactions. You just kind of have to learn how to play what works best for you. And so you can kind of flex it a little bit that way. So as far as the learning process goes as well, the learning process is what you need to focus on as being the fun part. It can be really easy to look at a fighting game and, see your guy and the other guy. It's like, I just got to beat his ass. That's going to be the fun thing. It's like, I got to win. But if you focus too much on winning, you're just going to drop the game early on. Because early on, you're not going to be winning. You're going to, load up into your game. You're going to start playing online matches. You're going to go, 0-40. And it's going to feel bad if you're focused entirely on winning. So what you have to do is change where you're finding the fun. You have to look at the learning process. So you look at those losses, you see how you did, you think about what you got hit by, and you try and think of a way that you might be able to counter it. And you need to use your tools that you have too. Like, a lot of fighting games have a good training mode where you can set up a dummy to do whatever. So if you're getting hit by the same thing a lot, you can just set up that dummy to do the thing that you're getting hit by. And then just, sit there and experiment and figure out what's going on. And then you can figure out how to beat it. And you might not be able to, react to it in a real match, of course. But at the very least, you've learned something. And if you can find that learning part as the fun, then you can have fun all the time with fighting games instead of just when you win. Because otherwise, you're going to be having a terrible time until you start winning stuff. And even then, you're going to have, if you get really good, you're going to have maybe 50, 60, maybe even 70% win rate. But there's still going to be that remaining, 40-30% where you're losing and having a bad time. So, that's the biggest thing, is try to figure out a way where you can have fun with the game all the time. So fighting games are also just a great way to hang out with friends, I find. I mentioned, I have a friend who got me into fighting games initially. First game I played was Under Night. And he just, started getting me playing Under Night. And, I had a whole lot of fun playing that game, and, just one-on-one, and that's totally cool. So, I think it's a great way to, just hang out with friends, talk shit, get hit, try weird stuff. And, they're kind of very social games by nature. And, they come from arcade days. You're going to be standing next to someone, so you can have the same kind of, digital equivalent. And, it's kind of hard to do physical events right now. But, you can make do with what you got. Go join a Discord or something like that. And that's the easiest way, is, make it a social game. Because that at least makes it a whole lot less lonely. Because if you just go against online players all the time, random matchmaking and stuff, it's not going to be a whole lot of fun, I find, usually. I don't know, maybe that's your thing. But I have a lot more fun when I'm playing with someone I know and just, repeatedly matching them, even if I'm losing all the time. It's still pretty fun because I, have a friend to, make jokes with and, complain that I'm getting hit by the same stuff over and over again, and you can make fun of me. But, that's kind of, the social element of the game. There's also, tons of different fighters out there. If you're new to fighting games, you might be kind of confused on which one to, pick up with. There's Street Fighter, there's Dragon Ball Fighters, there's, all these sorts of different games. But, it's just that there's a different fighting game for everyone. You don't need to pick up all of them. You can just kind of pick one. And one of my pieces of advice, I would say, is to pick one that you love the style of first, and with a few caveats. I would say some of the older games probably avoid it first, just because they have like super veteran audiences, and playing against only high skilled players, even if you're focusing on learning, you're going to be losing for a long time before you start getting matches on people. Even though there's going to be people to help you out and stuff like that, but maybe pick one that is at least decently well populated, so you can start to get that kind of feeling of achievement by earning some wins. But that's why I kind of gravitate towards the anime fighters a little bit. Obviously playing BlazBlue. I played some Guilty Gear 2, Under Night, and just the kind of general style. Works out well for me. I love the giant combos that you can do, even if I'm garbage at them right now. But that's just kind of my style. So find a game that you vibe with, find a character that you like, especially. Figure out how to play that character. I would say, like, try to avoid swapping around too much. Like, of course, experiment a little bit early on to find one that you love the style of. And that's how I played a little bit of Street Fighter. I had to go through all the characters until I found G, and he just oh man, G is great. I love G. But find a character that you can really like the style of, and as soon as once you find that style that you like, that's going to drive your engagement with the game way up. It's going to encourage you a lot more to actually get good at the game and do the stuff that looks really cool. So that's pretty big. And one of the other things is figuring out the right way to learn. And whether it's character or game mechanics or what have you, there's a right way to learn for everyone. And different people learn in different ways. Some people learn a lot better with just hopping into training mode and labbing over and over again. And some people learn best just by getting into online matches, learning by experience. Some people have a mix of the two. I personally like a video that Sajam did. I'll link to it in the description. He kind of touches on training mode as a tool to solve problems more than anything else. And so, open up the game for the first time, go through the tutorial, tool around with some of the characters, do some of the mission mode stuff if the game has it, and then jump into some online matches, and then get wrecked a while, figure out what you're getting hit by, and then take those things into training mode. And that's probably the best way for me to learn. But there's plenty of different ways that people can learn. Some people just learn by experience. Some people learn different. So just figure out the best way to learn for you, and don't use any particular YouTube guide as Bible for how to learn a game, and just kind of take bits and pieces and put them all together in the way that works best to learn for you. And because you're just banging your head against a wall with a method that doesn't work, it's not going to be great. So figure out your best method of learning. And I touched on it earlier, but getting your losses out of the way early can help you kind of have fun with the game quicker. Again, bouncing back to kind of like the anxiety. Once you start getting those losses out of the way early, it's going to make all of this a lot easier to do. The learning and losing and having fun, that kind of goes on for a little while. But if you can get those early losses done, you can feel better about losing. And I think that's even just an important life skill past being good in fighting games. It's just get good at losing quickly, and analyzing what happened and figuring out how to problem solve to get past those in the future. Because then once you start losing, you can figure out how to start winning. So it's kind of a big important first step. And last thing I want to say is the importance of finding community. If you pick a game that looks cool, pick your character and everything, just hop on like Reddit or something and look up your game. And a lot of the time, more often than not, there's going to be some kind of link to a community Discord. That's exactly what I did with Undernight. There's like a huge Discord over there that has tons of people in it, and you can even just like assign your role for your geographical region, and do matchmaking that way. Just hop into a channel for NA West and say like, hey, who wants to play some matches? And someone will say like, oh, cool, I'm down. And you'll have a lot better connection than if you just like hop online in like the ranked mode in Anime Fighters. Especially like not a whole lot of people even play the ranked modes. It's mostly just like people hopping in rooms to play. But it's a lot better that way. Plus it's big for that social element too. So I would say definitely find that Discord. That's probably the easiest way nowadays to find a group of people to play. Not really any forums out there right now or anything, but shop on a Discord. You even have voice chat, so you can just hop in with someone and make jokes and say like ask questions, and ask them what you got hit by and like how to do that thing, and figure out how to go from there. But yeah, community is huge, because that kind of keeps you engaged. And that's about all I have. If you guys want to see me play any particular fighting game, I would love to experiment with different fighters. I'm super new to fighting games. I have like probably net 40 hours across all my fighting games or something like that. So with that, I want to kind of give that new player perspective to other new players or whoever's watching. I don't know. Maybe you're super experienced and just watching this for fun. I don't really care. But if you want to see certain content and certain games, just leave a comment. And I'll see what I can do about it. I have a good number of fighting games right now, so I'll probably try and make some more content on what I have in the meantime. Maybe try and pick up a few new characters, see what my thoughts are on them and stuff like that. But yeah, I would love to hear what you guys want to see from me. And so hopefully I will see you guys again soon. Leave a comment, and yeah, peace.